What's your name, kid?
The human spider.
The human spider, that's it? That's the best you got?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
The sum of $3,000 will be paid to the terrifying, the deadly, the amazing Spider-Man!
Hey, don't you leave. Listen before I talk about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Be patient. It's a good life lesson. Stay, don't leave yet. So, funny story, I had a Twitter account. Nothing big, only had about seven followers. I know, sad. But I had 2 emails, deleted one of the emails, and I didn't know that the email account, that the Twitter account was connected to the now deleted email. So shit, that Twitter's gone. So I created a new one. Just be nice, and look, I know you can see this new Twitter account. Give me a follow. I'll really appreciate it. Alright, thanks. I better have more followers or we're gonna have a problem. Alright, now back to the main topic of this video. Goddamn Spider-Man. You can't escape that web slinger. Get it? Yeah, I read comics. Don't really know where that was going. Anyway, moving on. For some reason, Spider-Man has been popular since the mid-60s. And why? Well, I don't know. It's because lots of people can connect with Spider-Man. Well, actually, Jaden, how can you connect to a superhero? It makes no sense. Well, one, shut the fuck up, because it's the Peter Parker side people connect to. But Peter Parker is fictional. Wow, yes, people like that exist. Just go on Twitter. So I think the internet can all agree that Sam Raimi made the perfect trilogy. The Evil Dead. No, not that. That's also a great trilogy. No, Spider-Man 1, 2, 3. Man, that was so good. Come on. Someone in the far future make that intro into a remix. Just those 3 words, though. Spider-Man 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I get distracted real fast. But the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy is literally perfect. So the first ever Spider-Man from 2002 is still so special. One, I'll say it still holds up very well. I don't care about what you say. Yes, the high school students look like they're all in their 30s, not teenagers, but who cares? And how dare do people say Tobey Maguire looks old? How fucking dare you? Tobey Maguire is the perfect Peter Parker. On how Peter Parker's this teenager just trying to get by. Be more social, but still very insecure about his image. He has to deal with bullies, just like every teenager going to high school. Tobey Maguire played it very well. And he's also a great Spider-Man. Oh no, he doesn't tell that much jokes. Shut up, who cares? We don't need a Spider-Man that tells a lot of jokes every fight scene. Yes, I know, Spider-Man tells jokes when he fights his enemies so he doesn't get scared. Another great character detail about Spider-Man. But also, I mean, look at the suit. That is just glorious and beautiful. But I mean, Tobey's Spider-Man does tell some funny jokes, though. I mean, I never said it was the greatest joke. Moving on. Let's finally talk about Spider-Man 2002. Fun fact, the same year I was born. Anyway, no one cares. Oh yeah, this opening sequence still makes me want to jump off my couch and scream in excitement. I might be 19, but I'm not gonna lie, whenever I watch 2002 Spider-Man, I grin and get excited like a kid at the fair. I don't care, judge me. I mean, I won't cry until I fall asleep. I'm joking. God damn, it's still so good. I mean, come on, listen to that music. Oh, it's like butter against my ears, smooth. So, the movie starts with a zoom of a spiderweb. Ooh, metaphors, gotta love that. But we get this iconic narrating from Peter Parker that is a part of all the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. So Peter Parker misses the bus and he starts running towards it to get the bus driver's attention. And the bus driver sees Peter and ignores him. What the fuck? Alright, I must ask then. What the hell did Peter Parker do that everyone hates him? Peter, my dude, what did you do? But thank goodness for Mary Jane. And don't lie, and I can't lie. When I was younger, Mary Jane was my fictional crush. Don't act like I'm a weirdo. I think everyone at the early 2000s had a crush on her. Don't lie. After watching the first Spider-Man, don't lie. Mary Jane gets the bus driver to stop for Peter Parker. And Peter enters the bus, and right away everyone is judging him, especially this nerd-looking troll of a girl. Bitch, you can't judge anybody when you look like that. I'm sorry, but she can't. So then they go on a school trip to the museum, and yes, I know they all look like 30-year-old people who struggle to pay taxes on time, but who cares? They're actors, but they go to this museum, and Harry Osborn was on the bus like the rest of them because he's rich, dude. That's only for peasants, the buses. But Norman Osborn, his father, played by the great William Dafoe, drops off Harry Osborn, and you could tell right by the scene on how distant Norman is to his own son, bringing really great awkward tension between a disappointed father and a son relationship. So then Peter is with his classmates, and Peter convinces Mary Jane to take a picture of her, and showing his crush on Mary Jane, and also showing that he really has a crush on Mary Jane. But also, Sam Raimi, you clever devil, having Mary Jane wear Gwen Stacy style clothing. Very clever. So Peter takes the pictures of Mary Jane, and a spider lands on his hands and bites him. So this whole museum scene is great because it shows how Peter and Harry's friendship is, and how they communicate and talk to each other, while showing Peter's interest in science and photography, with how he also has a crush on Mary Jane. Just a perfect scene showing how classic Peter Parker is. Peter, after the school trip, goes back to his aunt and uncle's house, and what makes Aunt May and Uncle Ben so great in this film is they act like how your grandparents act like. Grandpa sitting down at the table reading the newspaper while Grandma cooks dinner for them. People saying, "This is sexist." Shut up. Just enjoy a movie for once. It was the early 2000s. And don't lie, your grandparents act like that too. But Peter Parker says he doesn't feel well and he's going to take a nap. And he gets to his room and takes off his shirt. And Jesus Christ, Peter. Ever hear of food? You look like an anorexic teenage girl. But he takes his nap. Crazy man. Norman is also going to be the guinea pig to his new experiment because he's mad that the government isn't going to fund half of his work. So he acts like a spoiled brat and experiments on himself by going to the gas chamber. I'm sorry, that was too far. But this green gas substance sprays on him, and he starts to freak out and scream in pain. Oh wow, it sure sounds like a gas chamber though. But hey, it worked because Norman jumps out like a Broadway performer. But Peter Parker wakes up from his nap and oh shit, he got a six-pack. No, not the beer. The abs. My dudes. But Peter Parker is so energetic he does on the wall. And Peter Parker is back at school and he's eating lunch alone because and while he's eating lunch, he looks at his wrist and is like, what the fuck? Is that cum on my wrist from the other night? Looking at those Mary Jane pics. It was web fluid, but I know people have a complaint on how it should have been web shooters rather than organic. But I think if you're making a live action movie on Spider-Man, that, a man that has the powers of a spider, you're gonna have organic webs. It just makes more sense for live action. But saying that, I adore the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and he has web shooters, so whatever, who cares? So Peter, organic web, shoots out, and he's just confused about the situation. And I guess he must have met a leprechaun because, damn, he's having a lucky day because Mary Jane slips because some douche spills something on the floor. Worse, the janitor. But she slips, and Peter has great reflexes now and catches her and her lunch food. And it was also practical, by the way. And that's just talent. Do schools still have talent shows? I know it's out of topic, but I was just curious. Alright, back to the video. So while Peter is still confused about what's going on with his new powers, he accidentally attaches his web to a tray, pulls it back, and he blocks the hit because, spider senses. And the tray of food hits the 40-year-old Joe Mangale. I can never say his last name. I'm bad with names. You know who I'm talking about. I mean, fellow teenager Flash Thompson. So naturally, Can't blame him. He gets mad, but classic white douchebag syndrome. Flash wants to beat up Peter. Don't know why. Well, I guess because he knows Peter through the lunch tray. Whatever. I lost train of thought. But Peter's like, bitch, I have powers now. You're nothing. Let's go. So he willingly agrees to fight Flash Thompson, and Peter wins and presses everyone except Mary Jane. So Peter actually gets embarrassed because he wants to feel confident, show his classmates he's not a joke anymore. But actually made his crush, Mary Jane, disappointed because she now thinks Peter is like the rest of her classmates. Mean people. And Peter is really the only nice one at that school, so he gets embarrassed. He's disappointed that the girl he cares about is disappointed with him. Wow, I know, very deep. So Peter runs away from the school like a little bitch and gets to this alley and looks up at this brick building. And I mean, this is the most iconic scene ever. I'm not joking around. Ask anyone you know about this scene and they'll know about it. Very iconic because it's of Peter crawling up the brick building and it's so cool. Like, don't lie, it's a cool scene. So then we get a scene of him testing out his powers and he web slings down a building. Just classic superhero discovery scene. So then later on, Peter talks to Mary Jane and he literally just talks to her and compliments her, and she's shocked by it. Just showing Mary Jane so far had a tough life without love from other people. Peter starts drawing costume ideas because... So the only reason right now for the story that Peter becomes Spider-Man, but not really at this point, is that he wants to afford a car to impress Mary Jane. So he gets Uncle Ben to drop him off at this library because Peter lies, saying he's going to study, but he's actually going to go to a wrestling match to win some money for that car. And, oh yeah, that still hits me. No, I'm not crying, shut up. So Peter goes to the wrestling match, and Bruce Campbell is the announcer. And he's the one who gives Peter Parker the name Amazing Spider-Man because Peter before wanted to be called the Human Spider. What? Is he a nerd? Oh, shoot. But Peter, that was not creative at all. Human Spider? I mean, Spider-Man's way cooler. But it's really cool how Sam Raimi had his great friend Bruce Campbell give Peter the name Spider-Man. It's just a cool thing. So we get the famous Randy Savage playing Bone Crusher, and I know, okay, let me explain. So while Bone Crusher is trying to take down Spider-Man, Peter goes up to the cage's wall saying this. So decades later, we all know that the society is very sensitive now. Such bitches now. And they wanted to literally cancel the Spider-Man. I'm not lying. I remember this a few years back. They wanted to cancel the Spider-Man movie because Peter said something very homophobic, but I mean, it was as a joke, and it was the early 2000s. I mean, come on, you social justice cunts. Get a job. God damn it. Damn it, now I sound like a boomer. God damn it. So after Peter Parker wins the match, he goes to get his money he won. But the owner is a scummy person and gives Peter just some money, not all what he was promised. So naturally, Peter is angry and lets this robber steal money and get away. I mean, dude, what did you expect? You scammed the human Spider-Man. You can't do that. But that was Peter's biggest mistake of his life, because when he gets outside, he's looking for Uncle Ben. He's not there. So he's wandering around and he sees a crowd of people, and he discovers his wounded uncle was shot. The robber shot Uncle Ben. And I know Tobey Maguire makes weird faces, but come on, that was some good acting with him crying. Peter is naturally mad and puts back on his wrestling costume, and with bad PlayStation 2 graphics, he swings up and looks for the robber. And yes, the CGI is shit, but I don't give a fuck, because this whole scene is pure awesome of Peter finding his uncle's killer. It's cool and awesome. Peter finally finds the killer, and this is when we get classic horror from Sam Raimi. And it's actually creepy and great, because Peter stalks the killer by hanging on the ceiling and watching the killer and waiting to strike and attack the killer. It's just so good. But after Uncle Ben's death, this is truly when Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man. Again, it's not because Tony Stark gave him a suit. Peter Parker became Spider-Man to honor his uncle. I just want to say, fuck you, Sony, for being cucks to Marvel Studios to allow them to ruin the character Spider-Man. I'm sorry, but I'll just admit it. Tom Holland is not a good Spider-Man. He's not. He's a great actor, but for the MCU, he just plays Iron Man Jr. It's not Spider-Man. All right. Cringe rant over. The Green Goblin is back. I know I forgot about him too. I'm sorry. Green Goblin is a great villain. Just playing jokes, all right? He's a great villain. But Green Goblin attacks an army base that is testing out weapons because he's mad they cut his funding to his Oscorp business. And, oh yeah, he kills those suckers by blowing them up. And then right after Green Goblin kills those people, it just cuts to the graduation of Peter Parker and his graduated classmates. Then we get to the parade scene, and it is such a early 2000s parade with singer Macy Gray performing there. Remember her? No, because it was 2002. It's like when Scooby-Doo 2 had Sugar Ray. It's bizarre but hilarious. So Peter is there to take pictures for the Daily Bugle. Yes, I know I missed a scene of Peter applying to the Daily Bugle. Sue me. But yeah, J.K. Simmons was born to play J. Jonah Jameson. He's my favorite character of the trilogy because how greedy that motherfucker is. Anyway, back to the parade. The Green Goblin arrives there and starts chaos. And why? Well, he's crazy. That's why. Don't really need explanation. It's a superhero movie. And this is the first time Spider-Man meets Green Goblin. And Spider-Man gets his ass kicked. Jesus, Spider-Man, you have spider senses. Use it. You dope. But jokes aside, great scene to show how powerful Green Goblin is. And how he doesn't care. He just likes to see chaos. And that's what I call a good villain there. So later on to show Green Goblin is an evil motherfucker. He discovers that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And he fucking attacks Aunt May. Bruh, you can't do that. That's just messed up. But towards the end, after Spider-Man saves Mary Jane and the civilians are on those flying buses, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not stupid. Green Goblin beats up Spider-Man. Very severe. It's like, shit, this is worse than a hate crime. But after he insults his girl, Mary Jane, Spider-Man is able to take down Green Goblin, and I can't even speak. Then the Green Goblin gets stabbed in the dick. Yeah, it was the early 2000s. It was weird. But yeah, that was Spider-Man 2002. Still such a timeless movie, and it's still so good. I mean, it's great. Now let's talk about Spider-Man 2. Alright, yeah, Spider-Man 2002 was very big success. I mean, it made a lot of money. That shocked the world. A superhero movie making money? Yeah, bitches, it did. And thank goodness it did, because we got Spider-Man 2 from 2004. That lots of people say it's the Citizen Kane of superhero movies. And fuck yeah, it is. This movie is just perfect. I really have no flaws with Spider-Man 2. It's pure perfectness. And if you deny it, I will hunt you down. Oh, just a second, my lawyer called. Weird. Oh, I mean, I'll do nothing. That's what my lawyer said. Cringe jokes aside, Spider-Man 2 is the reason I want to be a film director, because how amazing it was. It motivated me to be a filmmaker. I made shorts and YouTube videos talking about movies because of Spider-Man 2. So yeah, it's a very special movie to me. And it probably always will be a special movie to me because it's Spider-Man 2. The best superhero movie of all time. So before I start to cry, let's talk about this masterpiece of cinema. Oh my god. Cinema. Spider-Man 2, ladies and gents. This movie begins with the eye of Mary Jane. Then the camera is panning out. And oh shit, sorry, this isn't film school. But yeah, we now see Mary Jane is on a billboard. I don't know why, because of I know, it's because of modeling a product. That's what she's doing. It's one of those perfume products where, hey, no ugly people on to promote our product. Only skinny bulimic white girls for our products. But anyway, I don't know where that was going. This one scene of Peter looking at Mary Jane's billboard shows how Mary Jane is still his only distraction from reality, because right after that, Peter's late for his job and he works at a pizza joint. His boss is frustrated by Peter being always late and getting sick of Peter's excuses why he's always late. But I mean, he's actually a pretty damn good boss, because if this was real life, Peter would be fired right away and be on the street sniffing that snowflake. But thank goodness this is fiction land. But jokes aside, Peter grabs the pizzas and runs out and to get the deliveries on time. But that's kind of hard when you're also a superhero, because dumb kids who don't look both ways, that's the number one rule you learn as a kid, to look both ways before running down a road. So they don't look and they run down the road, and while a truck is still driving, don't know if the driver can't see them or he's just okay for manslaughter. Kind of confusing for the truck driver, I guess. But Peter sees this and puts on his Spider-Man costume and swings towards them and rescues them from being hit. But hey, now he can just swing to get his deliveries done. Nice. So we get that iconic scene of Spider-Man swinging while holding pizza boxes. I mean, how can people complain about this movie when you have scenes like this? But even if Peter's swinging through New York to get that pizza delivered, he's still late. But I mean, we get that classic meme everyone still talks about. That's right, pizza time! Why did I say it like that? But yeah, Peter's luck fully runs out, because then he gets fired from the pizza joint. But hey, his Aunt May surprised him with a birthday party. Perfect. Mary Jane is there, Harry Osborn is there, and oh shoot, he's mad at Peter because he doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man, but he's mad that Peter takes pictures of Spider-Man, who thinks he killed his father, Spider-Man. Well, shoot. Yeah, Peter Parker is the most unlucky man ever. And we get this really heartbreaking scene I don't see enough people talking about. It's when Aunt May has all these late bills, she'll still want to take care of her son, Peter, and gives him money for rent he's late on. It's just such a great scene, and such a great character she is. So then Peter goes to his rundown apartment, a great example of how much Peter does good for people, but he just ends up living at a rundown apartment room. So then Peter gets to meet his idol, Dr. Octavius, because of Peter's college professor, Dr. Connor. Well, no, I got that confused. It's because of Harry Osborn, because Harry Osborn is funding Dr. Octavius' project. But when Peter and Dr. Octavius meet, they kick it off well. They act like longtime buddies. And he even allows Peter to help him on his new project he's going to show people the next day. Even Peter Parker says it might still be too dangerous to use this large machine. Dr. Octavius tells Dr. Octavius that because it might malfunction if the slightest thing is wrong with it. But right now at this film, Dr. Octavius has this high ego and thinks the machine is done and safe. Just great showing of two characters. Peter, who is as smart as Dr. Octavius, but he still cares more about people. Then there's Dr. Octavius, who is smart, but he really doesn't care about the safety of people because he thinks the machine is built perfect. So then Peter gets ready to go to Mary Jane's play because, she invited him. Be weird if he wasn't invited. Yeah, I have no joke for this. Moving on. Wow, it's now awkward. Again, the night does not go his way because there's bank robbers trying to escape from the cops, and they're shooting at the cop cars. Peter senses it because, no, he's not a gypsy. He has spider senses because there's robbers. Because the robbers are about to hit Peter, but Peter jumps out of the way and he has to be Spider-Man again to stop the robbers, even if he knows he'll disappoint Mary Jane by being late. Just showing the true juggle of balancing out two lives and how difficult that can be. So yeah, Peter's now late, and Bruce Campbell is the ticket guy, and he will not allow Peter to go watch this play. Peter has a ticket, well, doors are closed. Tells Peter he needs to tie his shoes, pull up his tie to look more presentable, and Bruce Campbell still doesn't let him watch the play. What a player. But that's it. Peter just waits outside for Mary Jane, and she's pissed at him for missing this play. And Peter again has an excuse because he can't tell her he's Spider-Man because, he just can't. And she's just fully done with the excuses and gives Peter one more chance to explain himself, but he can't. And she's done and she walks away. Now, Peter has lost the girl he cared about. Again, what did Peter do to have such bad luck? Next, Peter's at the event for Dr. Octavius to show Next, Peter's at the event where Dr. Octavius is going to show his project to the audience. And the machine, it can create energy like the sun, because why the hell not? But just like Peter thought, there was a malfunction and the machine goes crazy. So Spider-Man gets there and tries to stop the machine from blowing up the whole city. But it was too late because, to Doc Ock's wife. But what I just realized watching Spider-Man 2 again is that I laughed out loud because Harry Osborn does not care about the injured and deceased people from the event. He's mad he's mad that Spider-Man saved him. What a bitch. So then we get another classic Sam Raimi horror scene with the hospital scene. I mean, as a kid, I was scared watching this one scene. But moving on, Doc Ock wants to build the machine again because you might be wondering why. Well, it's because the metal tentacles are controlling and manipulating him, actually making Doc Ock a poor man trapped situation. Still so great for a villain. So later on, Mary and Peter meet up at a cafe to meet up and try to be friends again. Or maybe more than friends, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, at this point, Peter has fully lost his powers, and he came to terms with it. But his spider senses come back when there's a fucking car crashes through a window and tries to hit them. But of course, Peter saves MJ by getting out of the way with the car. And Doc Ock then just kidnaps Mary Jane to get Spider-Man to fight him. And that's when Peter's spider powers fully comes back to save his love of his life. I mean, don't judge. It's sweet, you nerds. So Peter suits up again, and then we get the most famous fight scene of cinema. The train scene. I mean, it's so epic. I know epic is a cringe word, but I don't care. The whole train fight scene is so epic.
Say the word epic.
But Spider-Man, or should I say Peter Parker, convinces Doc Ock to stop being a dick and just be a good scientist again. And it works. Doc Ock sacrifices himself, saving New York from his own killing machine at the end. Peter convinced Doc Ock to be a good guy again. Peter also saves MJ again, and they become a couple at the end. And you think it would be a happy ending, but no, it doesn't, because it ends with Mary Jane looking at Spider-Man swinging, and she kind of just looks sad. From what I got from it is Mary Jane realizes she's with the man she's always wanted to be with, Peter Parker, but how is she going to balance being with a hero of New York, Spider-Man? Yeah, that was Spider-Man 2, still a classic, and I will say, a perfect movie. The whole meaning of Spider-Man 2 was how can a single man juggle his life of a superhero and being a normal person, and how your actions leads to consequences, and how do you deal with those consequences. So great.